Thank you again for joining this webinar. This webinar is sponsored by the Institute on Disability and Human Development and the Leadership, Education, and Neurodevelopmental Disabilities blend program, both at the UIC's Department on Disability and Human Development, as well as the Autism Program of Illinois. Funding is provided in part by the Autism Program of Illinois and the Illinois Department of Human Services. We're very excited to have great presenters with us today to share about this important topic. Now I will turn it over to them. Whenever you're ready, Mark, Jesse, and John.
Hi, my name is Dr. Mark Dixon, and I am the Director of the Cognition, Behavior, and Mindfulness Clinic at UIC. And today what we're going to talk about is a general overview of the services that we are providing at UIC. The three presenters today, myself included, are new to the university, and this is a new program that we wanted to make the community aware of and describe a little bit of what we're doing and the types of research that will come from it. Next slide, please. The agenda today will include a brief discussion about us, the presenters, and I will have each of us introduce ourselves, the mission, the clinical services, as well as how to sign up if you are interested in receiving services or referring individuals to us for services. Next slide. As I said, my name is Mark Dixon. I am a PhD in psychology, and I have what's called a board certification in behavior analysis. I have been a professor for over 20 years. I'm new to the university and am directing this program as well as contributing to UIC in a variety of other ways. Jesse, would you like to begin?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is, I go by Jessie. That's easiest. My name is Jessie Hinman. I am also a board certified behavior analyst. I received my master's degree in ABA 2 years ago now, and have been working with individuals with autism for 5 years or so. I specifically kind of head up the mindfulness program, so if anybody has any questions about that along the way, feel free to shoot them my direction.
John?
Good morning. My name is Zhihui Yi. I usually go by the name John. I am a board certified behavior analyst, and I am the clinical coordinator at the CBM.
Our clinic and mission entails a multidisciplinary research, training, and clinical offering that provides evidence-based behavioral interventions to children with autism and their families. We provide clinical services for children, adolescents, and their caregivers in the areas such as language, cognition, social skills, social and emotional concerns, and challenging behaviors. Our mission and our approach is to promote empowerment and individuality by teaching self-awareness and control skills. Client treatment plans are also individualized to improve independence in the areas that are most important to the client. Next slide, please. We use a variety of what are called behavior analytic approaches or behavioral approaches. And these approaches are used to maximize environmental contingencies to promote positive behavior change. Our focus is teaching new adaptive behaviors which promote meaningful outcomes for the client, reducing behaviors which interfere with learning or contacting meaningful outcomes. The types of target behaviors that we are able to address include language and communication difficulties, social and emotional challenges, harmful and dangerous behaviors, and other types of behaviors which may interfere with learning. We have 4 different programs that make up the totality of the work that we do. I will briefly describe these and then turn them over to my co-presenters to speak more about the details involved in each of these programs. An individual who may be looking for services may not necessarily know initially which of these types of possible interventions may be best for them. So therefore, a general intake can be done in which our staff will work together with caregivers to determine the scope and sequencing of a variety of options that might fit that individual. The first is the Language and Cognition program. Oftentimes individuals with autism and related disabilities tend to have limitations in one or both of these domains, and we work individually with that client to try to improve both. There is some correspondence between both language and cognition, and working together on these can be greatly beneficial. The Mindfulness and Acceptance interventions entail teaching individuals to learn to live with in the present moment and to enjoy the moments that are in front of them. Oftentimes we get trapped in our minds and worry about the future or perseverate on the past. And using a variety of mindful-based approaches can help individuals with disabilities and also help ourselves improve our general overall satisfaction with life. The Complex Behavior Program is one which is designed to first identify conditions of concern that a caregiver may have been brought to their attention, or a concern that the individual themselves may have reported. After that identification of the problem, a thorough and multidimensional assessment would be done, and an individualized intervention program would be constructed. Finally, the last of our 4 opportunities entail caregiver training and consultation. While it is great that we can provide additional services to individuals with disabilities, they are only as good as their ability to transfer that technology to others that are working more continuously with these people. As a result, we have a variety of caregiver training and consultation options which run a range of one-on-one direct live consultation to multi-hour online coaching, which also includes feedback and direct or constant interaction with us, serving as a coach at a remote distance. So those are the range of programs that we will be offering to members of the community. And I'm going to turn it over now to my co-presenters to continue on with a little bit more detail as to what these projects involve.
Awesome. So the first programs that we're offering at the CBM is the Language and Cognition program. And like Dr. Dixon mentioned earlier, we use the approach called behavior analytic approach or behavior approach. And what the approach really does is that it focuses on the environment of teaching and use certain techniques to maximize learning and also with learners' participation. And the format of these programs includes weekly one-to-one or small group sessions. The small group sessions probably won't happen anytime soon due to the current situation of COVID-19. But this type of teaching can both be applied individually or in a group format. The intervention plans are individualized because we know children with autism and other disabilities, they really vary in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. And all the services that we offered under the Language and Cognition program are supervised by a board-certified behavior analyst, or BCBA. In terms of the potential areas that we really focus on in this program might include motor skills, play and leisure skills, social skills, various adaptive behavior, and the corresponding cognitive development. What made this language and cognition program, so it is similar to what most providers will call ABA services, but what make our program kind of stand out a little bit is the specific programs or the curriculum overall that we are using at the clinic. And this type of curriculum focus more than each individual specific behavior or specific skills, but rather it targets this overall level of behavior or repertoire that we kind of foster the ability for children to learn by themselves, with the end goal of that the child will be able to learn in their natural environment and contacting all the reinforcers or the consequences as they exist in their community or their home or school setting. Next page, please. So in terms of the overall structure for the program, so initially, like Dr. Dixon said, that once we go through the initial intake or onboarding process and we've identified that which program will be the best fit for the child and the family's needs, what happens first in the language or cognition program is that we will conduct a multi-dimensional assessment, and this assessment will thoroughly kind of like give us a snapshot of what are the strengths and weaknesses is for the child, and what are the primary concerns that parents or school teachers have, because those are the environments that the children interact with on a daily basis. And once we determine the strengths and weaknesses, either via behavior assessment, checklists, interviews, etc., one of the board-certified behavior analysts will construct a treatment plan, and the treatment plan usually outlines different areas where skills needs to be taught or can be improved upon, and with detailed criteria and different phases, so that clinicians can keep track of the child's progress and also make modifications as the treatment progresses. And in terms of sessions, we offer weekly sessions, and sessions usually are 1 to 2 hour long, depending on schedule availability and the child and the parents' needs. The teaching consists of structured teaching and non-structured teaching, meaning that the child might for some time sit on the table, complete various programming and teaching, but also we contrive therapeutic interactions into the child's routine. So for example, when the child is playing different toys, then there are certain techniques that we can use to promote, let's say, language skills or social skills as the child is playing the toy with the therapist. And, previous page. And also, also parents' involvement is really emphasized in the program, in the sense that we want parents to be informed of what we are targeting, quote unquote, during our sessions, and how parents, if they want, can be a part of this in terms of maintaining the skill at home, or promote what we call generalization, which essentially means apply the skill learned in one setting to multiple settings. So at the end of the session, we always have these detailed discussions with the parents in terms of the progress the child is making, and also answering any concerns the parents will have if they notice like any behavior of interest in home or at school. Next slide, please. So in terms of the format, so right now, because we know under the current situation in COVID-19, lots of families are wishing to have the telehealth service option available. And we are happy to say that we are actually will be able to offer language and cognition programs via telehealth. So if we decide that telehealth is a appropriate fit for the child and the family's needs, then what the parents and the child will do is that they will meet with the provider weekly on a telehealth platform, in which case it can be WebEx. To improve live participation and also just restricted by this remote format, caregivers are required to accompany the child during all sessions, and parents might be asked by the clinician to facilitate in teaching in some way. In order to receive the telehealth services, of course, you will need access to internet, webcam, or microphone. And during these sessions, the clinicians usually will be sharing a screen, and the screen will display various stimuli or content or material, and we will interact via microphone. And but we also realize that telehealth service might not be appropriate for everyone. So we do offer in-person services at the clinic, which is the family clinic at UIC DHD. And right now we already come up with a plan in terms of how to safely reopen the clinic and have children receive services in a safe manner, and also while ensuring that the parents can participate in the process with all the policies and also safeguards during this COVID-19 in place. So we will be sharing more detail on that once we have everything finalized. But when you contact us and requesting services, just know that in-person services is an option, and we'll be more than happy to provide more detailed information once we went through the initial intake. And for the initial intake, we do prefer in-person appointments when possible, but we can also accommodate telehealth intakes as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post in the Q&A or chat section, and I'll be happy to answer them at the end. Jessie, you want to?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so again, my name is Jessie. I'm kind of the coordinator of the Mindfulness and Acceptance program here at our clinic. So essentially what we do, what kind of Dr. Dixon alluded to at the beginning, we provide social emotional intervention for children with autism. So those interventions focus on what we call psychological and behavioral flexibility. So essentially we're teaching children skills to manage difficult or challenging emotions that they might have that relate to, just daily life stressors. Essentially, they focus on teaching mindfulness skills, focusing on your values, engaging in meaningful behaviors in order to make those difficult things not so difficult and, let them get in the way. Lessons are super interactive. We make them very fun, very child-friendly. Oftentimes, if children are interested in, sports or animals or whatever it might be, we try and tailor our activities to meet their interests so that they are engaged with those activities. And it's not just, talk therapy, sit down, talk about your emotions, but it's very interactive and engaging. So we do serve children from ages 6 to 17 years old. Our sessions are typically 1 hour long, and we suggest 2 sessions per week, so 2 hours each week. And similar to what John was saying with the Language and Cognition program, we do offer one-on-one group sessions that are right now going to be just telehealth, and hopefully in the near future they can also be in person. Next slide, please. Perfect. So intake interviews and assessments will determine the client's strengths and weaknesses and help inform our intervention choices. We'd like to get kind of a full, well-rounded picture of our clients, of the children that we are working with. So we will typically do an interview with the caregivers as well as the child, kind of get both perspectives and see kind of what the main intervention targets are for that person. Again, sessions will focus on teaching children those psychological flexibility skills. There's 6 different processes that we target that kind of play into that, and they help that child learn to adapt to life's challenges and promote those behaviors that focus on long-term goals rather than just always focusing on short-term goals. Again, those 1-hour sessions are child-friendly, fun, interactive, hands-on. Typically, we have engaging discussions, and usually there's some sort of take-home activity, like you can see on the left here. So we do have to kind of change those up with the telehealth option, but there will be worksheets, a lot of kind of fun videos, things that you can do at home to still be engaged with the sessions. Next slide, please. Perfect. So for our telehealth services, we will have 2 options. The first of which is one-on-one sessions. So we'll meet with the caregiver and the client on WebEx twice a week for 1 hour. One of our clinicians will facilitate the activity and discussion with both the child and the caregiver, but there's a little flexibility with this. Obviously, if the child is older, an older teen, and they feel comfortable and the parents comfortable with them participating by themselves, that's totally fine. That's something that can be discussed. But for the younger kids, sometimes it's helpful to have that caregiver there, and it also allows the caregiver to see, what we're working on so that they can maybe work on those skills at home with the child as well. Additionally, we will offer group sessions via telehealth where clients and caregivers will tune in to a live interactive 90-minute guided session twice a week. Clients won't be able to see each other, and the clinician will not be able to see the client, so that's a little bit different, but participants will be able to follow along and interact with the group via chat and things like that. And, like we've been saying, in-person services are hopefully coming sooner than later. Next slide. All right, back to Dr. Dixon.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about, in more detail, the complex behavior program. So one of the primary expertise that our discipline has, behavior analysis, is identifying and providing interventions for challenging behaviors. And these challenging behaviors can be anything from, basic work refusal to self-injury, to non-compliance, and everything in between. In this program, we deliver evidence-based treatments for persistent and complex challenging behavior. The problem includes applied behavior analysis interventions, functional analyses, behavior intervention plans, implementation and support, and caregiver training. This entails one-on-one support for challenging behaviors with a heavy focus on positive behavioral supports, and supervision is provided by board-certified behavior analysts, clinical psychologists, and UIC faculty members. And we're currently accepting referrals from other healthcare providers. So what this means is that if we have a client that comes in with some difficulties with acceptance that needs some mindfulness intervention, there's also deficits in language or cognition. If there's a co-occurring challenging behavior, we would want to address it by doing a thorough evaluation, identifying kind of the triggers and the consequences, sorting out the various environments in which the behavior is more highly probable to occur in, and how these challenging behaviors may be participating in the learning deficits that we're seeing with the child. Next slide, please. The structure of the service entails an initial intake interview and assessment conducted with caregivers to determine the target behaviors of interest, and the ones that are most critical to address. The clinician will actually conduct observations and analyses and collect additional behavior data to correspond with the reports that are given by stakeholders. And then finally, a behavior intervention plan is developed, which is individualized, where there's functions of behavior identified and replacement behaviors targeted. Caregivers are trained on these interventions, with additional ongoing services and monitoring to ensure that the plan is working effectively. We try to get this from intake to treatment, intervention done within a couple hours of both interview and observations, such that this process does not linger for an extended period of time when challenging behavior is of immediate intervention. Next slide, please. When it comes to telehealth and the increased reliance on that given the coronavirus, the intake and consultation meetings will take place on WebEx. The assessments can be completed online by the caregivers. After the brief interview, the parents will be asked to interact with their child, all guided by the clinician via a Bluetooth earphone or cell phone. The clinician will observe the interaction via the webcam, and parents will receive individualized behavior plans and coaching. So while we sit and wait for in-person services to kind of resume at full capacity, this type of telehealth service is very effective in conducting a initial interview and analysis of what the challenging behaviors may occur. And there is a little bit of an added benefit of being right there in the environment which the family is experiencing the challenging behavior. Next slide. John, would you like to comment?
Sure. So kind of in line with what Dr. Dixon was saying, that given the current challenges brought by the coronavirus, we're kind of there are more concerns now with obtaining in-person services. So one of the other programs that we offer here is a caregiver training and consultation program, which I think really fit nicely in the current kind of pandemic of COVID-19. So what the caregiver training and consultation program does is a self-paced, fully online program designed for caregivers so that they can learn some techniques. They can kind of learn specific techniques, or they can learn more about like why certain type of behavior is occurring, and also at the same time receive individual consultation from a behavior analyst. And the way this program works is that this program has two parts. The first part is a self-paced online program. So caregivers will receive a login credential, and they will log on to the Blackboard platform of UIC, which is a platform that students at UIC use for taking classes. So on those platforms, there will be 5 self-guided modules, and each module will go through content such as what is behavior, how to set up the environment to maximize learning for the child, etc. So these modules will cover these generic topics about some techniques, some of the science behind these techniques, and how they can apply these at home. So this is the first component of the program. The second component is a one-on-one consultation with a BCVA or other staff members at the CBM. So during these consultations, parents or caregivers will have the opportunity to kind of reflect on what they learned in the module and then receive direct coaching from one of our providers so that we can help parents to translate the skill they just learned and in their home, and also help troubleshoot some of the concerns or questions that they see as they try to implement these techniques. And we cover a variety of topics in this program, such as how to teach new skills, how to adjust to new routines. We know like our routine are all like widely affected by COVID, and now with schools start to reopen, we might need to transit kids back to a school setting, but the schedule will look a lot different than pre-COVID, so there might be some challenges over there. We also address how to manage challenging behavior at home, and we also cover 3 special topics that are somewhat relevant towards children impacted by autism or other developmental disabilities. So they include toilet training, food selectivity, and bedtime routines. Next slide, please. So here on the screen, I have like 2 screenshots of what these modules looks like. So these modules, they are essentially narrative PowerPoint slides. So we will go through different slides to cover different topic and contents. And within each module, there are also some knowledge checks. So there are some true and false question, multiple choice question to just kind of like push the attendee kind of a little further to kind of reflect on how I can use the skill at home. And we also have those mini assignments for parents to try out. So these are essentially like mini behavior plans. So parents can try to get some practice with the child, and parents will be required to record themselves implementing some of that. And the clinician during the one-on-one consultation will discuss these recordings and provide feedback to the parents in those sessions. And like I said earlier, there are 5 modules in total. And after each module, the caregiver will receive 1 consultation with the clinician. So it kind of progresses. So the clinician kind of guide the parents through the program and then take what the parents needs and kind of individualize future sessions during those one-on-one consultations. And as Dr. Dixon mentioned, we are kind of new to UIC. And before we came to UIC, we ran a few cohort of these programs, and based on the feedback that we received, parents really love these programs a lot. And we also have some data published in journals in relates to the efficacy of these models. So I think this will be a fantastic option for parents who are concerned on COVID and want to receive remote services. And I think the caregiver training and consultation program will be a great place to start. Dr. Dixon, you want to talk more about like the overall service delivery and sign up?
Yeah, you know, as John just mentioned, I mean, you know, and I've highlighted already today, we have 4 different kind of domains of services that can be delivered immediately via telehealth. And so for providers that are looking for supplemental services for their clients, you know, we're ready to take them on immediately. And if there are individuals that you believe need referrals or families out there that are looking for services, these can be done right away. And we have the technology, the history, and experience to deliver these things effectively via telehealth. The same types of services will be in person very soon. We are within weeks away, if not a week away, from being able to open up the referral process for in-person service delivery. Next slide. So if you are interested in these services, the contact information can be found on this slide. You can call the Family Clinic directly at 312-413-1490. And with that initial call and recommendation of services, we will schedule you for a appointment and discuss the options and how they can fit the needs that you have. At this point, what I would like to do is to turn things over for questions and have a little bit of discussion here in the moments that we have still available. Who would like to begin?
Great. We had a question in the chat about how is the work you do related to language and cognition similar to and different from speech therapy?
Sure. Well, I believe that there's a lot of similarity and also some differences. I feel that the work that we do maybe focuses more on the underlying like psychological processes that allow for inductive and deductive reasoning kind of awareness to occur. Obviously, we would have some overlap with some of the specific structural, tasks early on in the language process of teaching, names and colors and various kind of foundational learning type domains. But we would probably start to drift as we move into some of the higher level tasks where we're looking at abstract association and concept formations. So again, some similar content and then maybe a little bit of divergent content. I think that the ideal arrangement would be to have co-occurring services where, we are not thinking or designed to be a replacement for speech, but rather as a supplement that when working together, I hope that we could accelerate gains as a team.
Great, thank you. And the family clinic does have a speech therapist as well. We have a few more questions that came our way. One of them is, are you planning to see children with special needs and challenging behaviors? For instance, a child with cerebral palsy or mild CI?
Yes, that would not be a problem at all. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to specify the populations you see, or is it kind of all?
Well, I mean, I feel that we can see a wide range of populations that are kind of fitting within the domains that we've discussed here today. I wouldn't want to limit it by disability type, but rather we would, want to keep things within the range of what we described here today. So somebody that might be outside that range might be an individual with extreme mental health conditions that would probably necessitate more coordination with psychiatry and mental health professionals. So that would be something probably outside of our scope. But I in terms of the actual disability type, is really not a boundary for us.
Great, thank you. We have another question about what type of insurances you accept.
We accept all the insurances that the UI Health system accepts. So there's a wide variety of them, and the call of the family clinic could clear up any specifics about an individual plan.
Great. So ABA is sometimes thought of as problematic in certain communities. Could you comment on how your offerings are different than what people may have experienced previously with ABA?
Sure. Well, first off, ABA is a young field, and I believe, I've been around for a while now and have seen the evolution and the more compassionate direction that the field has gone in the last decade or so. And so, prior experiences 10, 20 years ago with the discipline probably don't accurately kind of predict what is happening now. And then the final comment I'll make is that, just like in traditional medicine, there will be good and bad doctors. There are probably, good and not as great ABA providers as well. What I believe keeps our services exemplary and that stands above of the variety of options in the Chicagoland area and honestly across the country is that we are a exclusively positive, directive-based intervention approach. We're integrating beyond the boundaries of ABA with things like mindfulness and acceptance-based trainings, the openness and willingness to collaborate with other professionals in a interdisciplinary setting like the family clinic. And so those characteristics, I think, will lead somebody that may have been gun shy about trying ABA, I think that they'll leave us feeling very refreshed that what we're doing here is different and is very positive based. Furthermore, I guess I just speak for myself. I am one of the top 10 published researchers in the entire field of ABA. And as a result, the work that I do and that I teach the students, such as Jesse and John, are on the cutting edge in terms of best practices, in terms of effective treatments. And so the treatments that we're delivering are really, I believe, a step above.
Thank you for sharing that. We did have another question about your background and Jesse and John, and sort of where did you come from and about these services that we now have at UIC.
Sure. I'll just start a little bit with my background, I guess. I received my PhD in psychology from the University of Nevada, and after a short time in human services in the Chicagoland area, I went to Southern Illinois University and ran the behavior analysis program there for 20 years. This past year, I decided I wanted to move to or return to a larger metropolitan area, which would provide me the opportunity to build upon some of the work that I had done at Southern Illinois with trying to deliver cost-effective services to the rural community, and take that model which you're seeing here and build upon it so that we could deliver these types of quality services to the large metropolitan population of Chicagoland, and furthermore to have a large emphasis on underserved populations and demographics that I did not have the opportunity to do in a more rural setting. So that's a little bit of my history with respect to how I showed up at UIC. John and Jesse, would you like to briefly comment as well?
I think John and I are just waiting to see who unmuted themselves first. So yeah, similarly, I actually also got my undergraduate degree at the University of Nevada, Reno in psychology. When I started there, I actually began working with adults with developmental and disabilities in a clinic, as well as started working directly with children with autism. After that, I applied to grad school and ended up at Southern Illinois University, and then decided I wanted to go on and get my PhD in behavior analysis. So met up with Dr. Dixon there, and then kind of made the transition to UIC with him this semester as well. So that's a little bit on me.
Totally just playing the mute unmute tagging game to see who unmute themselves first. Anyway, so I'm from China. I'm right now a international student in the rehab science program at the UIC. My background was in psychology. I did an undergrad at Beijing Normal University in psychology, and then I traveled to the U.S. To complete my master's degree in applied behavior analysis at Arizona State University. And then I applied and then enrolled in the doctoral program in behavior analysis and therapy program in Southern Illinois University, and then moved up to UIC along with this transition. And also, I am bilingual. I am native in Mandarin, and I think I'm fluent in English too. Away. So yeah, that could also be something if families or caregivers that you know who are kind of struggling with the language component, and you think that might be beneficial to like have that component, then I think we can definitely work something out in regards to that.
So much for sharing your interesting background. We have another question. What would you recommend for young adults who would benefit from these services, however, are 18 or older?
Well, I think that what we could do is have that initial conversation with the caregivers, provide some direction in terms of how to access similar types of services, and then depending on the individual circumstances, it may end up allowing for us to take somebody that's older into our care. But the primary majority is going to be children, the ages that we described. But they're one off or two off. Adult care may be appropriate given the individual circumstances.
Great, thank you. We have a comment about, I would like to share information about your program with my colleagues and care coordinators. Do you have a link or handouts to distribute?
Sure. We can provide digital handouts of this content here, as well as links to the website. I guess it looks like Jesse already did that in the chat.
Yes.
So
I see it in the Q&A.
Yep.
Great. We have another insurance question. Do these services accept Medicaid? And if all Medicaid managed cares are accepted? I see in the Q&A that there's an answer, and you mentioned the family clinic as well.
Yep. Correct.
Great. We have a question about where should a family start and what should their expectations be for services?
Sure. I think, again, to start by checking out the website and reviewing a little bit more detail of what we've described here today. Then the next step would be to call the family clinic and say that you're interested in the CBM program. At that point, the call and the contact will get routed to one of us, myself, Jesse, or John, and we'll take it from there. Just have kind of a frank conversation with that person as to what's going on, what are the kind of presenting problems, what are the hopes of intervention, and try to craft a general idea of how to move forward, and then schedule that more formalized intake process in which we can evaluate the strengths and difficulties that are happening with that individual client. In terms of expectations, I would hope that we would be able to produce positive behavior changes, reduction in challenging behaviors and episodes, general overall life satisfaction for the caregiver as well as the individual that we're treating. Just to comment, these programs weren't just ideas that I've thought would be kind of cute to do, but rather these are areas of intervention that the three of us have years of experience in delivering with effective results, as well as research documenting the efficacy of the types of interventions that we're doing.
Wonderful. And if I can have a final question from the chat. You briefly mentioned some research at the beginning of your presentation. You talked a little bit about evidence-based interventions. Could you speak a little bit more about the research on these topics?
Sure. Well, let me start off by saying that if people come in for services, they're not by default, or they're not coerced in any way to be part of any type of research study. So again, just to make that clear. But the kind of the philosophy that I kind of run under or operate under is one of research to practice, meaning that we want to deliver practices that are heavily entrenched in research evidence, as well as to conduct research that can enhance the effectiveness of practice. And as John mentioned, as we developed a version of the telehealth family consultation model that that was described here today. We also, piloted it and evaluated the effectiveness of it before putting this together to ensure that this wasn't just a waste of everybody's time, but rather there was outcomes that were being made, as well as that the caregivers found it valuable. In terms of the other three domains of mindfulness and challenging behavior and teaching language skills, the methods that we use are ones that have been documented, not only just documented in the published literature, but also that literature was documented by me in the types of interventions that we do. So, I really don't have any hobbies or anything, so I've managed to publish over 200 peer-reviewed papers in my career so far, and with a lot of that content being related to the types of interventions that we're offering here at UIC. And so I'm not saying that I know everything, but I'm saying that the work that we're doing has a research foundation to it, which I believe makes the probability of success with some of these interventions a little bit higher.
Great, thank you so much. So the email is here, mrdixon@uic.edu. Jessica also put her email in the chat if you have any more questions, if you'd like more materials. You also have the website to check out for future webinars. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please join us again for our next webinar, October 21st, from noon to 1 p.m., Coping with Loss During COVID-19 and 2020 Societal Conflicts. Thank you so much for attending the IDH webinar series.